Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of this build. I know some of you are probably wanting to see the first episode of the Great Guitar Build Off. That is not yet ready, and it'll come out all in due time. So we're going to jump into this one and continue on. This is the project I've been putting the most time into lately. Been running into some creative blocks on the others. Now we are trying to route out the control cavity, and it's from the front. And one thing I didn't realize is that because the guitar's curved, it makes it really hard to try to route out anything. Now, the good thing is I don't need to make a control plate that perfectly fits this because I've already made the control plate. We're just putting the cavity into it. So it can be pretty much any shape that I want it to be. I measured out where I think everything should go, and I was using a neck pocket template for my router to get some straight lines in there. I think it worked out pretty well. Time to put the jack plate hole in. I thought about drilling the whole way through with the Forstner bit there, and then I decided it didn't need it, so switched to a smaller bit there just to drill the rest of the way into the cavity. Now we're drilling some holes into the pickup cavities so that we have access to put in all of the wiring when we get there, which is my least favorite thing, as you're probably well aware of if you've watched my videos. Didn't want to drill through the neck pocket there, but didn't see any other options. I guess I could have tried taking a long drill bit from the control cavity into there, but it would require drilling through a lot of wood, and keeping it straight, keeping the drill bit straight for that long, I don't trust it. Now we're just going to clean up the control cavity a little bit here. Keep sanding to a minimum, at least for the video. There was a lot of sanding that was done, but I'm not going to show that to you. Marking out some holes for the for where I'm going to put the screws in, and then we're going to sand down the body, get it ready for basically painting next, get it ready for the finish. There are lots of curves that you've probably seen me put in this guitar, so Orbita Sander did a pretty good job with that, but the back is nice and flat, so that made it easy to sand out. Then I realized we should probably have a better access to the neck right there, so I decided to thin it out. And after sanding all of that, I had to go back and sand again, which you see me doing there. There you can see what it looks like, what I carved. I think it looks pretty fantastic with the rest of that body, because you don't see this body shape with basically the neck access looking like that. Now we're going to wipe it down, clean it up, get all the dust, fingerprints, everything off, and we're going to apply wood grain filler. Mahogany is a very porous wood, so it may feel completely smooth, but there's tons of little gaps because of the grain. I've never used this before. I put about 4 or 5 coats on it and sanded it down, put more on, sanded it down. We're going to see how it turns out probably in the next video. Alright, back to drilling some holes. I want to make sure all the holes are drilled before I actually spray this out. The cool thing is that there are no holes on the back of the guitar at all, so everything that I need to be aware of is on the front of the guitar. I'm throwing a little bit of filler in here, that's why you see the tape on that. There were a couple small gaps that I wanted to close up. Switched over to the neck while all that dried, and you may notice that I'm sanding the neck or the headstock and it's not done. These were a little sketchy. I ran a lot of tests on a scrap piece before I actually drilled into the plate. So if I just went with the big drill bit first, it basically mangled the test piece that I had, and it looked horrible. And if I would have done that here, I would have ruined that plate. I found if you work your way up in drill bits, it worked pretty well on my test piece. And now I'm just so that's what I did here. Now I'm just filing it down, making the edges nice and smooth. And there you can see our test with our switch and our volume. And you can see it on the guitar. Now you can see what I should have done before trying to stain the headstock. Completely slipped my mind, but we kind of need tuning peg holes. So what I'm doing here is I drilled probably 90% of the way through this direction with a center point drill bit. Started each hole by going in reverse. I've talked about that before. But then on the back there, there was a little hole poking out, so I knew exactly where to go. So I just drilled a tiny bit from the back, and then that way you don't get tear it on the front and you don't get tear it on the back when you go through. We have to make sure the neck's straight there before we do anything else. So that's ready to go. I did some sanding, and now we're working on the inlays. So these are going to be similar to what you see on this style of guitar, but the ones I wanted to get, they don't make black inlays. So I got my own material and had to make my own. So I measured out everything, and I made these little templates there that you see whole way up. I don't know if they are the same size as ones you would find on a guitar. I measured my own and just kind of went up as I saw fit to whatever I thought would look good. So we're starting to cut everything there. Realized the bandsaw is not the answer because a lot of them are thin. So I cut out this piece of wood, and now I have a little jewelry kind of thing. I have no idea what it's called. I've seen these used before, but it worked very well, so I could cut out the inlays with the coping saw. And then after I cut as close as I could to the line, sand it down to the line and make them look the way I want. And there we get a look at what we're going for. This took quite a while. I broke a few of these pieces because it's thin wood, especially when I got up to the higher frets, because they keep getting smaller as you go up the fretboard. And to put them on, I used a little razor blade there, scalpel blade, I guess, to mark out the outline, and then I went through and made them deeper so that I could chisel out everything. Basically, I don't want wood tearing out, so cutting it, pre-cutting it with the razor blade was my solution to prevent that. I will tell you right now, it did not work. I don't know if it was the wood. It could have been the wood, but there's lots of little parts that chipped out. So we're going to see how good my repairing is when we're done with this, because as of right now, I don't know how it's going to turn out and what it's going to look like. All right, while I was rambling on at that, I started spraying out the body. This is a new sprayer that I have. This is really the first time I've used it on anything. I mean, I tested it, and now we're putting on the primer. So this is a lacquer primer. It's an automotive lacquer primer, and we're going to have an automotive coat of paint actually going on next. And this is where I found out some of the grain was still showing through, so I had to get some more wood grain filler and put that on after the primer. All right, there you can see fitting the next one, and because it chipped out, I'm putting sawdust on there to help fill those gaps with the glue when I put it in. And the sawdust, even though it's maple and everything, the shading with the glue, it looks like a different color. So we're going to see how it turns out when I sand the whole thing down, because I'm going to sand into the fretboard slightly to even everything out, and it should take out some of the minor scratches, some of the errors that were made on the top of the fretboard. There, I'm putting CA glue in there. That's how I'm keeping them in. And then once I put it in, I clamped it down, so I used a radius block so that it would match the radius of the fretboard and actually stay in on all sides. And I think it worked pretty well. The hammer actually produced way less chipping. There I am repairing a part that chipped right out. But the hammer actually helped quite a lot. And even though I would take out a thin layer and then use the razor blade again, it still kept tearing out basically with the grain of the wood. So that was unfortunate. I did up through the 12th fret here on the inlays and then sanded these ones down because I wanted to see how it was turning out. And then I decided I would do the rest of them and then sand those down separately. All right, here's a shameless plug for Motley and Myrtle. If anyone is looking for wood crafts, you can get custom stuff. Check out what they offer. They've got some really cool things if you're looking for that. Lots of stuff that I can't do, stuff that I don't even touch as a guitar builder. All right, we're going to try binding on this guitar, and I am going to be doing that with a lacquer gold. All right, that's it for this video. Soon you should see another video for this guitar build and possibly the Great Guitar Build Off.